So first things first, the ledger is going to be comprised of three main areas. The first one is going to be right here, the incident sidebar. So as we've touched upon in previous classes, every area of the software has a main sidebar here that's going to change per ability. The ledger is going to have an additional sidebar here used for organizing transactions and treatment plans into separate folders that are called incidents. The second area is going to be down here at the bottom, and it is called the balance table. The most important part of the balance table is going to be right at the top right here, which is where the account balance is listed. MacPractice calculates how much of the account balance is the patient's responsibility and how much is currently out to insurance. The way that this calculates will depend on whether or not your office uses insurance estimating. The final and most important section of the ledger is going to be the transactions table, where all ledger work is going to be listed. In MacPractice, you have the ability to enter treatments, which are planned work, or transactions, which is completed work that needs to be billed. For the purposes of this mini class, we will focus on doing transactions. And then across the top of the ledger, you will see 6 different pop-up menus that allow the user to interact with the software. The first one over here is going to be the incidents menu and is going to be separated from the others because it solely deals with this incident sidebar. Here you're going to be able to create a new incident, or you can archive or delete existing incidents. That's pretty much all this one's going to be used for. It really just interacts with that sidebar. You do have 4 main ones here. They're going to be used to interact with the ledger. The first one is going to be the charges menu. This is simply going to be where you enter new charges, or if need be, you can reverse a charge back to a treatment as planned work if need be. Next, you're going to have the payment menu, which is going to be where you will enter any sort of payments. And the payment menu is going to contain 4 different payment types, patient payment types, I should say, by default, as well as the insurance check and credit card payment types. If you are running a bit of an older version of MacPractice, you may not see these 2 separate insurance payment types. It may just show new insurance payment there. That was an update that was, or excuse me, a change that was made in an update recently there. If you do find that you do need another option than those that are listed here, there is going to be a payment type folder over in the references ability, which is where you can create custom payment types for your office as they are needed. Here you're going to have the other menu. The other menu is going to allow you to enter adjustments, which you can use to edit the patient's balance without affecting your production or deposit. So say maybe your office has a policy where if they do a no-show on appointment, maybe you charge them a fee for that. That might be a case where you use a positive adjustment to then add a fee to their ledger. Or say maybe you're running something like a family discount and you're providing a discount for a specific service, you can use a negative adjustment to then adjust that price accordingly. Then you're going to have the print menu here. This is going to be where you can create insurance claims here. And you also have the option here to print things like incident statements, account statements, any payment receipts as well, different things that you can print out from here. So in addition to the 4 main menus, there is going to be a view options menu right here, which is going to allow you to filter what you're viewing in the ledger. So this menu is not really used very often, simply because it's something that you usually set to your liking and then you keep it as is. But when an option is checked on the list, it means that it is showing on the ledger. When it is unchecked, it means that that option is hidden on the ledger. Personally, for these, my advice would be to turn off or uncheck the clinical ledger and to check the account statement. Um, I find that in a typical ledger workflow, it is best to reduce clutter and redundancy in the ledger. Um, for example, the information that would typically fall under the clinical ledger, all of this stuff is going to be accessible in, depending on which MacPractice version you're running, either in the clinical ability or the clinical tab, which is in the patient's ability as well. Since I have that accessible there, I don't really need to include that on my ledger. But again, that's totally up to your office how you would like that to work. This is going to be a setting that is local to each computer, meaning each computer in your office will need to uncheck clinical ledger and check account statement if you would like to do so. I personally prefer to just have that show because I want to keep my ledger simply nice and compact, and I want to just show the financial transactions and nothing else. So next, we'll go ahead and refer back to the incident sidebar. So I recommend using incidents to separate your patient's billing because they help prevent the ledger from getting convoluted and difficult to read over time. And don't let the name incident confuse you. Many offices prefer to think of them as encounters or problems or visits even. In fact, by clicking on the incident name here, you can, excuse me, if you click on the incident, you can click on the incident name and you can edit that to be whatever you would like it to be, whatever makes sense for your office. Some offices will use incidents for each visit, some for each period of treatment or type of treatment. Some will use them for each year, as I have them set up right here, or maybe every 6 months, depending on like checkups and cleanings. Especially if you're like a dental office, you may prefer to organize this in a way where it's, every 6 months you have a new incident folder. Each office and specialty will be different. It's entirely up to you to decide what will work best for your practice. And then each incident is going to have its own subtotal listed here. Below, you're going to see the account balance down here. And this is going to be the total of all incidents. And if there's going to be more than one patient on this account, say maybe you have like a husband-wife an account, or there's maybe children on the account as well, the other patient's balance will be included in this total. If you ever want to see all of the information for the account in one place, you will want to select on the account ledger up here, which is going to show basically everything that's in any of these incidents. All right, so next I want to talk actually creating a charge and entering a charge on the ledger. One thing you will notice here is that these are all going to be grayed out up here. That is going to be because this is not a place to actually enter your charges. You're actually going to want to select on the specific incident that you were using and select the transactions like node or folder, whatever you'd like to call it. You will select that there. This is kind of a similar concept if you had maybe attended our scheduling basics mini class. And that one, when you go to schedule an appointment, you want to be selected on that appointments folder in the sidebar. It's kind of the same concept here where you want to make sure you're selected on the transactions in order to enter a charge. So when you're ready to begin entering charges in the patient's ledger, you're obviously going to be referring to the charges menu here, and then you will select new charge right there. But before doing this, I do want to point out that it is important to note that some of the information that will be showing in the charge window that I'll show in a second is automatically going to pull from the patient record. So just to show you really quick, I'm going to navigate to the patient tab. And you will notice that different things such as the provider, the office, and the fee schedule are going to be set in my patient account here. Selecting the defaults here for this patient will save you a lot of time when entering charges later on because this will pull automatically into that charge window. So going back to the ledger, you'll go here, go to charges menu, click on new charges, and then you will get a new charge window that drops down here. So if you have your code memorized and you know it off the top of your head, you can definitely enter it into this code field right here. I'll just put in a code really quick. And then what you can do is you can use the tab button on your keyboard to move over to the next field, and it will pull in information in relation to that charge. If you don't remember or have the code memorized, you can always use this, this magnifying glass icon right here. If you click on that, you will then get a drop down with all of the fees that are associated with the selected fee schedule. You have the option here to scroll through and click on whichever procedure. You can also search the procedure by the code or the short description. And you also do have the option, as it shows here, to select multiple procedures by holding down the command key. So this is something we've mentioned in prior classes, but is pretty consistent across many areas of Mac practice. If you hold down the command key, that's going to allow you to multi-select different items in a list such as this that are non-consecutive. So as you can see here, I was able to multi-select those. You also do have the option, it might not come up very much when you're entering charges, but you can also just click and drag if need be, if you happen to have some charges that are right next to each other. Once you find your charge in here, you can go ahead and select OK, and that will also populate there. So as you see that then pulled in for that code. And one thing I will mention really quick, especially if maybe you're new to using Mac, I know with some PCs it's a little bit like this. You may want to get used to using that tab button to navigate through these fields. The reason being is that, especially on Macs, is that when you hit the enter or the return key, I should say, that's going to make it think that you are done with the charge. It's actually going to basically be the equivalent of clicking on the save. So if you have further work to do or you need to navigate to a different field, you can obviously either click in that field, but you will want to use that tab button if you want to use the keyboard for navigation in that regard. So as you can see here, we did have some information that did pull in automatically. For example, we had that provider pulled in, we had the office pulled in, and obviously our fee schedule as well is shown here. And you'll have all that stuff will pull in from the patient tab. However, if in the fee schedule for the specific fee, if it has its own provider and office set within that fee schedule reference, MacPractice is going to look at that information first and then refer to the patient tab. So it is going to place priority on whatever is shown in the fee schedule. If they have a different provider or office set, it's going to basically take that as priority. However, you do totally have the option to go here and edit this on the fly as needed. And you have quite a few different options here. You can flag a charge that needs to have sales tax included by clicking on the taxable checkbox if need be. You can also mark a charge patient responsible. This works for charges that aren't billable to insurance, as MacPractice will not allow you to create claims for charges marked patient responsible. Underneath, you do have the option to enter any diagnoses for this charge, and then the referral will pull if it is set within that incident. And then as we went over earlier, when you're entering charges, you may need to enter more than one at a time. You do have the option again to do that multi-select up here, but you also do have the option down here. So down here, you're going to have this kind of like a charge table, I would say. And this is going to be kind of similar to the transactions table in the sense that it's going to show a lot of information regarding what we're looking at, in this case, the charge. So you'll be able to see lots of different things like tooth and surface, for example, if you're a dental office, or, different like the primary allowed amount, the portions as they're divvied out, different things. But you do have the option here to add an additional code. So if you click on the plus button there, it is going to kind of create it'll kind of blank out this information, and then you'll be able to search and enter another code and add that one onto your overall charges that you're ringing up here. And then over on the right, you're going to have some information regarding the patient's insurance. You will see obviously what insurance they have and the plan, kind of when it renews. And you also see different things regarding the coverage. Below that, you'll have some more information regarding the charge. You'll have the total charge amount, any write-off if applicable, and then what is estimated insurance will be covering and what the estimated patient portion is as well. So once I click save, I will go ahead and I will get a line item on the ledger right here for that charge. Some offices, if you are following along, you may have noticed that maybe like a window had popped up by chance. There is a preference within the MacPractice preferences. I'll show you really quick. If you go to MacPractice and then preferences, and then if you go down to ledger right here, and then if you go to the new charge tab, you have an option here that after entering a new charge, you can have the payment window pop up and then the insurance claim window pop up. Some offices will leave this checked. This is an option, especially just depending on your office's workflow. If it is something that you can do in one swoop, if you enter the charges, charge the patient, enter their payment, and create the insurance claim at once, you'll definitely want to check these because it'll save you some time. But a lot of times it doesn't necessarily work out that way for a lot of offices, depending on their workflow. So you can come in here and uncheck those if you don't want to have those windows pop up every time that you go and enter a charge. So if you scroll across the ledger here, you'll see a bunch of different columns here. These columns can be arranged to however your office sees fit. So what you can do is you can actually click on the top, like the column name here, and you click and you can drag that around to put it in whichever area that you want. Simply because what's relevant to maybe, say you have two billers in the office, what one biller wants to see and what another biller needs to see might be completely different. So they can change these as needed if they need to. And this is going to be a setting local to your computer. So again, if you have two different billers, they can set this up exactly how they'd like and see what they need to see most relevant over here. And finally, it is really important to note that there's going to be two different dates in the ledger. There's going to be the posted date and the procedure date. The posted date here is not going to be an editable field. This is going to reflect the date the charge was entered into MacPractice. That's going to be for record keeping purposes only. The procedure date, however, is going to be editable and is used to reflect the date the procedure is performed. This is the date that your claims are going to be using. And you do have a preference that you can sort the ledger by one date or the other. Though I recommend setting by procedure date and making sure that your columns, I prefer to have my post and procedure dates in the front of the ledger. All right, so next I will show you how to create an insurance claim from the ledger. So you can create insurance claims in bulk by using the claims manager. However, this will be covered in a different mini class that we'll go over in the future. So we'll just go over how to create an individual claim here. So first, you want to make sure that the patient has insurance. Obviously, you can check on their patient tab, excuse me, and you can make sure that they do have insurance enabled. Go to the ledger. So you'll go ahead and select on the charge that you want to create the claim for. And then you will go ahead and navigate to the print menu and click create insurance claim. In the claim creation window, you'll want to verify that all this information is correct here. You will have the insurance carrier listed here. This will be the company that the claim is sent to. If the patient has a secondary insurance, it will be listed in the other insurance dropdown. If the insurance companies are not in the correct order, you can update them here in the claim creation window. So you can set this to what it needs to be, but you would want to go ahead and make that change over in that patient tab if need be. But you have different options here. You can select the specific form. Mine is default to set the e-claims, but say if you're primarily an e-claim office and you need to just send out a paper claim because a specific company wants paper claims only, you can come in here and change that to a paper claim if need be. And you also do have other options. You can click and select if you accept assignment. You can also see different information in regards to here, any split reasons if it creates a split claim, different things that you can see here. So then once you make sure and verify all that is correct, you can go ahead and click the OK. And then you will get an option, especially with a print claim, to print that out if you would like to. I'm going to go ahead and opt out of printing that out. And you'll see that I get an insurance claim line item here. And you'll see that it is currently in a yellow highlight, even though I'm not selected on it. That's because MacPractice will show you exactly what is tied to what line items here. So if I select on the insurance claim, you will see that this charge right here is going to be highlighted in yellow. And that is indicating to me that this insurance claim is tied to this charge right here. So next, if you want to enter in the payment for this claim from insurance, you will select on this claim and then you will go up to the payments menu and then you will select on if you have new insurance payment or insurance check or insurance credit card. We'll do insurance check and then you will get this drop down window that shows you how you can enter that insurance payment. So you do have the option here. You can enter a check number for reference. And then you also have the option here to enter that amount. So we'll go ahead and say that insurance gave us $50 for this. So once I enter that, I can go ahead and hit tab and tab out and you will see we'll update that remaining amount. You also do have the option here to edit this procedure date. In the case of insurance payments, the procedure date is going to be the date the payment was received or the date on the check. And many people are going to confuse this with the date of service. We have already dated that procedure, which you can do in that new charge window. And I find it helpful to think of the procedure date in MacPractice as like the real date. For an insurance payment, the EOB may be attached to this ledger transaction as long as you have it saved in a file on your computer. And you can do that by clicking on attach file here. You may also mark it as electronic funds transfer if you did receive that electronically. And EFTs can be excluded from a deposit slip, just a heads up. And if you are planning on submitting to a secondary insurance, the EOB columns must be entered for the primary payment. So I would go ahead and then check the box to use the EOB columns. And then I can go ahead and scroll over and I can see that, for example, we have different fields here. The reason code is going to be the only required field in this regard. But you do have all the other information that may be filled in as well. You'll want to consult your EOB for that information. So now that we've done that, we can then go over how to actually enter the payment. So here it's obviously going to be showing the charge that we have in particular. If you want though, you can also navigate to other charges or in other incidents. So you can click on this incident drop down and navigate to other incident folders here or different things like that. Even if you have multiple patients in this account, you can navigate to a different patient even. But what you would do there is you can go ahead and click apply to selection once you have highlighted this charge. If you click apply to selection, it's going to fill in that payment amount there, or you can simply click on this and then edit it manually if need be. Once you're done with that, you can go ahead and click save, and then it will enter in that insurance check and it will create a line item for that. I should mention, I'll go ahead and I can double click on this insurance check payment right here, and it'll allow me to open that window if I need to edit it in any way. I just wanted to point out really quick that I did have this close paid claim checkbox selected. So then once I did save that, it did set my insurance claim to paid close. However, if you don't have that checked and you do need to change the status of this claim, you can select on the insurance claim like so, go up to the other menu, and then here you will be able to manually set the insurance claim status. And then same thing with the charge. If you need to make any edits or changes to the charge, for example, we have the procedure date in wrong, possibly, we can double click on the charge and that's going to pop up that charge window again. And I can go in here and edit any information as needed. So next, let's go ahead and let's talk about how to enter a patient payment. So this is going to be very similar to how you enter an insurance payment. It'll actually be a bit more simpler. So if you just highlight the charge in which you'd like to make a payment, go up to the payments menu and then select whichever way they're paying with that patient payment with. Let's say they're paying by check. Again, you can go ahead and put in a reference number if needed, and you can go ahead and put in the amount. You can, again, tab over or you can click, it's up to you. And then once I hit the tab, it is going to pull in that remaining amount. And again, I can edit that payment procedure date, and that's going to be when you receive that payment is what I would set that to. And then you can go ahead and click on the charge and click apply to all if need be. Go ahead and click on that and then click save. And then now you have entered a patient payment there. All right, so last thing we'll look at here is going to be how to create a statement in the ledger. So typically to create a statement from the ledger, we would go to the print menu here and choose the account statement option. You'd print this out here. However, what you would want to do, maybe if you only want to show things that are for specifically just this incident, you will then want to click on a print incident statement. Because if you do choose account statement, there is a preference where you have the option to enter a date range once you select print account statement. And then what will happen then, let's see if I have that set there. I do have that set. So once you click on account statement, you have the option to enter a posted date range here. And you can leave blank if you have no preferred date range. If I were to create an account statement with no date range, that is going to pull everything that is on this account. So if there's multiple patients or multiple incidents, it's going to be pulling all of that in on that account statement unless I specify a date range. If you just want to show everything that is in the incident, you'll just go to print and then go to print incident statement here. And there we go, we got a line item there. You'll have the option to actually print it here if need be, but if you click cancel, you don't have to necessarily print it out. And then you will get a line item here that says statement sent. If I double click on this, I'm going to get a statement here that shows me everything that is on that charge. I should mention that you can highlight exactly what you want to show on here. My apologies, I did only highlight that charge on there. So what I will do actually, I'll show you really quick. You can actually remove the statements from the ledger if need be. If you click on it and hit the delete button, you can actually get rid of that statement if need be, if you made an error such as I did right there. But what you can do here is if you leave it completely unhighlighted, it'll pull in everything on this incident, or you can go ahead and click, whoop, there we go. Click and drag to highlight everything. Go to print incident statement. Go ahead and hit cancel so we don't actually print that. And there we go. I got all of that to pull in. I have the payments from both the insurance and the patient shown in here. I have my total balance. This is going to be looking a bit different for some of you because you might have a different statement form, either account or incident statement form set up than I might have. So that can be changed in the preferences as well if that needs to be changed. And you also do have a couple other options here where you can print out today's transactions, for example, or if you can print out just the patient payments only if they kind of want the equivalent of like a receipt, you can just print that out as well.